What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Wolf Not Wait. I'm your host, as always, Joseph Quiz, and on today's episode, we are talking about failure. So the thing that made me want to talk about this and bring it up is failure is both extremely important and something a lot of people fear. Don't fear failure. And I want to get personal with I'm going to talk about three specific failures and kind of explain how that's something that I got through and how that's changed my life and gone through. I really want to explain that failure isn't the end. It's a growing experience. It's an opportunity to learn no matter how hard it is. And what made me think of this video is the restaurant. Now, while I don't specifically consider that as a failure, I consider that as kind of like a change. It's also something that is extraordinarily personal to me, but had a lot more moving parts than just me. I had my family, had our employees, had our business partner, had friends and this and that. And there's a lot of the moving things other than me specifically, but it made me think about it and think about moving on and change and growth and learning from things that didn't work out. So to kind of bring about, February 11th is the last day that we had the restaurant. That was the day we closed. It was a Tuesday in 2020. Now been 3 fucking years. This is the first video after it. And it gets easier and easier every year. And for those of you who know me, who've been watching since the beginning, if not, the videos are there, go back and look. The restaurant was my home. It was everything. It was my first job. It was the hangout spot. It was like my little clubhouse. I had the key, so after hours we'd sit there. And of course, everybody knew. It wasn't a secret. Everybody would sit there, have some soda, chill. Sometimes we'd make some pizza, whatever. If I was hungry, free food. It was great. It was my job. It was my family business. I was there. I was helping. It was a staple of the community. We had been there for 40 years, Bella Italia. And for when it was Hurricane, was it Irma? I think it was Irma. When Hurricane Irma came, we were one of the few spots open, and then we had a line out the door, and people didn't have power, and they were trying to get food, but nowhere else was open. So I have all these great memories, and it was the spot that really meant a lot to me. It was, again, my home. So when it closed in 2020, right before COVID, again, go back and look at the video if you want to know why we closed, but give a short of it. Obviously, a lot of business type stuff, okay, we're not doing the business we want to be doing. Food cost is high, and then the rent was just fucking enormous. Dad wasn't happy there. He was killing himself there, and it was just a lot of factors that really went into it that eventually we're like, all right, fuck it, we're just gonna shut down. That's it. We tried to find some buyers, but things didn't work out, and that was it. And it's kind of a blessing in disguise because of COVID. COVID was right around the corner. February 11th was the day we closed. And again, I talked about my last video, and then I went on my reselling kick. As we were closing stuff down, that's when I really started reselling. I was posting stuff and doing things. But I looked at it as this could be the best thing that ever happened to me. And I tell the story a lot because I want everybody to understand that change, that failure, it's an opportunity to learn and grow. If the restaurant failed and we said, okay, that's it, we're not doing it anymore, it's done, it has an opportunity now to, one, learn something from it. This is one of the things of the restaurant, one of the 3 things we'll talk about, and learn something from it. What didn't work? What did work? I made a list of things that I felt were important to me. If I'm going to build a home somewhere, I want to own that property. I don't want to have, both physically and metaphorically, I don't want to be beholden to somebody else. I don't want somebody to say, hey, we're going to do this thing and now fuck you and whatever you got going on. I don't want to do that. And ultimately, of course, it is a business, so maybe it wouldn't have been the best business decision, but now I understand, separate from business and personal, if there's something that is really important to me personally, have that control and ownership of it. Not that somebody can come along and say, okay, fuck you, you're done. Make sure you have that control and ownership, but make sure you have that freedom. That's something that's very important to me. Prioritize different things. Make sure in business I delegate. Dad tried to do everything and kick ass because he was one of the few people who could do everything. He could pass things off, and of course we had employees who did really great at their job, and they kicked ass and they did their thing. But his business partner wasn't the best. I'm not going to, again, go into it super, but I think that there's a lot of things that could have been done better. I think I could have picked up more responsibility. There's times, I kind of sat back and, especially when we weren't busy, and I just relaxed. I could have done more. I could have came in more. I could have, worked for free at different times. I could have done different things. There's different stuff that I could have done to improve. And moving on is another big thing talking about. This could be the best opportunity for me because I was like, I can make more money, I can make new friends, and I did. I made new friends. I cultivated relationships with people who are still in my life to this day. There's people that I talked to, there's people I grew with, and then again, I made more money from it. At Target, I learned about corporate, I learned different things. I learned what was important to me and why I wanted to quit Target then later on. I learned different things. And 3, I had an opportunity to realize this was a passing, this was a moving, this is something that I have to get through. I am fortunate enough, knock on wood, that there's certain experiences with different types of loss and different types of things, but this was something that hit me really hard. I now, fortunately, unfortunately, have that experience under my belt, and I know how to process some form of loss better than, God forbid, a big loss comes in my life, and I've never experienced any form of serious loss, ever. Again, I've had loss of family and stuff like that. Death is a fucking tough thing, but this is something that's separate from that I now have experience with. Something meaningful, something important to me that wasn't like, say, a death of a family member or something along those lines. So that's something I got to grow with and experience. The first failure that I'm going to really talk about is the restaurant. And again, I don't really consider it a failure. I consider it, because we went out on our terms, we went out before COVID. Dad's happier now. There's a lot better, different things going on. I still miss it, but it's grown and created this opportunity for me that I've never seen before. But it's still something that didn't work out the way I wanted it to in that moment. And sometimes that's for the better, which is going to lead into number 2. And then again, this is in no specific order. Is going to be personal failure with relationships. I'm going to talk about 2 specific things. I don't want to go into certain details because I don't want to put people on blast kind of thing. But I specifically had this one friend who I knew for a long time. They were like one of my best friends, the people I talked to, people I hung out with. And there was things going on in their life and the way they wanted to live their life and do different things, they were more like family unit and doing different stuff. And I want to find a relationship and just sit around all day smoking weed and playing video games. That's their idea of a good life. That wasn't mine. Which again, far be it for me to judge anyone. That's your situation. That's what you got going on. Cool. What I want is something different. So for us to hang out, I'm either going to drag you away from what you want to do and kind of push you to be like, all right, come and do this and let's do business stuff, or let's resell, or I'm going to garage sales, or come with me and do this. And he was an extrovert, but not super extroverted. Like, wouldn't come out and just like start talking to everybody. I got to force them to do different things. Or I then have to stop what I'm doing, stop doing all these things, can't resell on a Saturday, can't go to garage sales and do this because I'm hanging out with them playing video games. And I don't do drugs, so that's just not something I'm interested in. So between that and then the situations we were getting in, as far as their personal life, my personal life, how we handled our mutual friends, and just a lot of other stuff, I just decided that it was time for this friendship to end. And I don't dislike anybody, I don't hate anybody, I only wish the best for everybody, including this person. But that friendship was somewhat of a failure, is what I would consider it then. It didn't work out, a failure, so to speak. And something I learned from it is that sometimes you're going to have to make difficult decisions. Sometimes you're going to have to draw those lines in the sand. And it's easy for people to do that and stop and draw lines, but setting up boundaries, understanding and making those difficult situations. Obviously, love and care about people. I didn't want to have to remove people from my life. But in order for them to be happy, in order for me to be happy, I didn't like the way things were going. I didn't like the things that they were doing. And the things that I wanted to do wasn't what they wanted to do. So we had to have some form of separation. And, there could have been a different way about it. Maybe I could have handled it a little better. That's something that you still learn and grow from. But learning those boundaries, learning to set up, learning that just because something is the way it is right now doesn't mean it has to be that way forever. And even though you love and care about somebody, you have to put yourself in a good position. I would argue to say first, but I don't want it to be like you're selfish. You're doing the things you need to do to succeed and be happy. So that way, therefore, you can give other people happiness to succeed. You can't truly love somebody else until you love yourself type of situation, which just leads me into my next one. Again, a friendship that went south. I didn't love and care about myself enough, and I looked from others. This was same around that time. And it was difficult for me and in this particular situation because I put a lot of focus. The person I was with was a really great person. I really enjoyed having this friend in my life. And I put a lot of effort and kind of self-worth into them looking for that back, which is a problem, as I talked about many a time here before. The fact of the matter is you need to love yourself. You can't just purely look from love from others. You can't do that. You can't get your love from other people if you have no love to give from yourself. It's not going to work. So between my insecurities, a bit of neediness, or a lot of neediness, and just all these things going on, they made the decision, like I made with that friend prior, to separate themselves from me. Which, again, ultimately is the best thing. And we're going to consider that, again, a failed friendship. Because what they wanted and what I wanted and where they had to be and where I had to be were two completely different places. And I understand that now. In the time it hurt, you know? And I understand that for me to do what I want to do and grow and be the person that I want to be, I have to have a different growing experience than they do. And for them to do all that and we can't connect and be friends and be together and do all that type of stuff with the situation that we were given. So I understand you have to love yourself, you have to grow, and sometimes difficult things happen that open way for new opportunities. You can't live in the past, otherwise you die in the future. And the present. I fucked that up. But you die in the present if you live in the past. So it's good. That would have been a really good quote. But it is what it is. You'll learn from it, you know. And that's something, those two failed friendships is something that I really want to talk about with Fair. And then the third one, this is more of a business thing, is handling rejection. I'm not wearing a red shirt today, I really should be. I set up my business, my t-shirt. I've since really stopped doing it. Haven't really put the nail in the coffin yet, but stopped doing it. Because I no longer enjoyed it and I realized, hey, this was something, I understood there was a level of difficulty that I was willing to aspire to. And then I got there and I was like, okay, in order for me to take this where I want to be, it's going to be even harder than I want. And I'm already disliking this significantly more than I thought. So I was like, okay, well, shit. What am I going to do in this situation? Do I keep going? I don't like doing this. This doesn't bring me joy. I'm not going to see significant financial gain for it yet. I have to put in more work and kick ass and do all this in order to get to that position. And I sat there and I thought to myself, I was like, I'm no stranger to hard work. You know, I sit there and resell all day. I make videos. I do stuff. I Uber. I kick ass with everything I try to do. And I'm no stranger to hard work. And if I love something, I'm going to put that passion into it. As far as the financial aspect of it, I have other opportunities that frankly made me more money in the short term, but long term, probably not. The t-shirts were more of the t-shirts and the fashion brand and apparel were more of a long-term opportunity. So I sat there and I thought to myself and said, well, I have better short-term opportunities. I like all these opportunities better, and I'm willing to work harder at them. This is a better long-term opportunity. However, I'm going to hate doing it and work hard, and it's going to take me away from the things that I enjoy in the long run. So I decided to put the nail in that coffin. But the one thing I did for it when I first started out was I paid $300 at the gate, went for it, took the risk, $300 to get a booth at the Sneaker Traveler in 2021. And I was there, and this is like, think of it like the Comic-Con for sneakers in the Tampa area. And I went there, there was Rod Wave there, and there was a lot of sneaker people, a lot of resellers, and I thought sneakers, streetwear, apparel, and mine was streetwear, but not quite. I really didn't figure out the whole fucking purpose of it. The whole goal was to really make money and get creative with it, and then the creativity I wanted to put it somewhere else, and then the money wasn't there, so I was like, well, I started this on the wrong foot, and of course I'm going to end it on the wrong foot, you know? You start with a shit foundation, and you end up with a shit product. And I started with a bad foundation. That's something I realize now. And I stood there, and out of the $300, I made like $30 just because some mom came over. Not my mom, but somebody's mom came over with her kid and was like, oh, cool, I like these, this is great, and I like what you stand for and the whole thing. And because it was something that I built the brand on, being yourself and expressing yourself and doing that, something I was passionate about. And, of course, the color red, which I love. And the whole situation and I made $30 on a $300 investment, and I lost, obviously, $270 plus the gas, time, and stuff for the shirts. I tried to sell on Amazon. It didn't work. I learned a lot about Amazon But that's also something that I learned from this experience. It was a failure, by all accounts, not even a failure. It was a failure. I stood there, but I learned something. I grew. I was like, this isn't for me. One, take risks, but take more calculated risks. I knew fucking nothing about this convention or nothing. I went into it blind, which sometimes it works out really well for me and maybe the best thing to do. But other times like this, it just didn't. So, I said, okay, fuck. I happened to also be next to, bring it full circle to the restaurant, one of our old employees from the restaurant. He was helping his friend, he was our busboy. He was helping his friend sell sneakers that day. And my booth happened to be right next to his, so I got to reconnect with somebody I hadn't talking to in years. At that point, we closed in 2020. We'd keep in touch every now and then. But then 2021, it was a year. And I was like, shit, okay, I'd been talking to this person in over a year. It was, well over February. So it was like November, I think, when it was. Somewhere along there, August, September, something like that. I think it was August. It was August. So over a year, I was like, oh shit. So I got to reconnect with this person. We were joking around, having fun. I met some cool people. And even though I sold not a singular fucking thing other than these 2 shirts, I was dancing and having a good time. They were playing music and everybody would be having fun. And they had a basketball thing and I was taking shots in the basketball and missing all of them because it's a sport and I suck at sports. And the whole thing, right? I learned about these conventions. I learned about setting up. I learned about the culture and the community. I learned to lean more into reselling, which I was already doing at the time heavily, but I was like, wait, sneakers, I could do this with comic books, and I could learn from it, and I did all that. And I learned about the process and buying the machine and setting it up. Now I can make t-shirts for my friends, and I have the stuff to do that. I learned about setting up on Amazon. And I'm sitting at the computer doing different calls and selling and different Amazon ad products and setting up Facebook ads, which again, I wasn't the best at. But doing that, I learned a little bit about influencer marketing and talking to people. And I signed little autographs for things and like, hey, thanks for wearing my shirt. And I sent it out. I sent out more free shirts than I made to fucking sell. I sold maybe like 6 things total. And I sent out like fucking 30. I have a whole bunch. I think the red apparel at Instagram, I think that's what it is, the red apparel brand, something like that. I'll see if I can put it on the screen. And I still have it, but again, I really don't do much with it. I had different ideas and creativity and tried different things, and I learned so fucking much from it. But in that time, I also remember I was the happiest motherfucker alive. That one dude's like, dude, how much did you sell today? You dancing? And I was like, I made like $30. And the guy's like, what the fuck? I was the happiest motherfucker alive, dancing, having fun. I learned a lot about rejection in business, rejection with different stuff. Having that experience and overcoming rejection and learning from that failure and saying, okay, cool. Now I go up to somebody and I'm like, I'll give you $5 for this. And then I go, fuck you. I go, okay, cool. And you move on. If it's a fair price, I'm not willing to pay more than that. No, that's it. It is what it is. And similar things with women. I had not the best track record, again, referring it back to different experiences with women and dating and all that as a younger man. Still young, but as a younger man. A teenage kid, I walked over and like I said, I was heavy, kind of looking at the ground like, hey, I think you're really cute. You're not getting really far with that. So learning about rejection and different stuff and not fearing that and moving forward and building with it and saying, okay, hey, if you go over to someone and you're chatting them up and it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You don't take that personally. You just, okay, cool, well, on to the next one. That one wasn't the one to hang out with today. I'll find someone who I have a better connection with. And you move on from it. Same thing in business. You go over, you try and make a deal with something. Hey, it doesn't work. It doesn't fall through. Somebody calls you a bad name, which, luckily, knock on wood, I haven't experienced. I've had people not respond. I've had people get a little angry. There was one dude in particular. But I never had a bad experience with the business stuff, but I've had rejection. No, I don't want to sell for that. No, I won't buy it for that. No, I don't think this is a good deal for it. I've experienced that now, and I've grown and learned from that failure. Similarly, again, and I learned about different businesses, learned about selling online, Instagram, different types of products, marketing, talking to people, just getting out there and really pushing it and learning. I learned so much from it. And overall, from those 3 experiences, technically 4 failures that I had, I learned so fucking much from it, which is the goal of failure. Failure isn't a negative. It's just an opportunity to do better. It's not something to take to heart. It's not something to be hurt. It's not something to cry about. It's something to do better with. You weren't good enough in that moment, and or the situation wasn't right. I have a dichotomy in it, and it goes against itself. 1, everything is my fault. I take full accountability for everything that happened. If it goes wrong in life, it's my fault.
And then two, I also understand that a lot of things that go on that don't work out may not necessarily have anything to do with me. If I go over and talk to someone and try to make friends with someone and they're fucking just not having it, chances are it doesn't really have anything to do with me. They having a bad day, or they just don't like the way this or that, or maybe they're introvert or whatever. But I take it as my fault. I understand you have that dueling dichotomy that just blends together. It's difficult to explain, but it just works. And I can think to myself, okay, well, hey, if I would have done this, I would approach them differently. And start off with this. I said something stupid. I understand as I get better, I'm a little better at conversing. And you grow. You don't take it to heart, like, oh man, I suck. It's like, okay, here's the things that I can do better. But also, there's nothing saying that if I would have done those things better, I would have got a different outcome. It could have been something with them. Simply in relationships and business and this. I learned negotiation better. Okay, there's negotiation that didn't go through. What can I have done better? But similarly, I also understand, hey, when I'm talking to this dude, I kind of got the vibe that he just didn't want to fucking sell this thing for a smidgen less than whatever he was for. He wanted it for 100, I offered 75, he would have done 99.99. That's the feeling I got, but I also understand and take it as, okay, well, what can I have done better to communicate and do this? And that's the forefront. Realize that a lot of things that go wrong or people who are upset or whatever, something like that, is due to them and their issues and insecurities, but also everything in life is your fault. And I mean that in positive. So that's something also that I learned from failure and just growing and being a better person and trying my best at everything I do now. Those are, again, tough failures, losing something that's important to me, getting rejected in business, getting rejected in relationships, getting rejected in friendships, cutting off friendships. Those are all failures and difficult things that you have the opportunity to learn and grow from. I sure as hell did, and I'm saying it, I'm smiling, I'm having a good time now, but in the moment, with the exception of the t-shirt thing, I was having fun, a little bit better mindset. But in that moment, it was a very difficult and heartbreaking thing for me, but I understood that this could be the best thing that ever happened to me in each one of those situations, and I grew and got better from it. So, if you guys like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below, what is a big failure that you've had, and what is something good that has come out from that failure, whether you learned or an opportunity, or whatever the case may be, what's something that you've had with that failure. As always, I'm Joseph Louisa.